Right, so welcome back to our now second session. We will be hearing from the amazing Davinia Batley from Become, which helps young people and young care leavers achieve in life. She's the director of fundraising and engagement, and she will share with us how they've quickly adapted to launch a brand new fundraising initiative using gaming, what they've learned, and how new and digital mentality will shape their fundraising going forward.
Morning everyone, my name is Davinia Batley. I'm the Director of Fundraising Engagement for Become, which is the national charity for care experienced young people. I'm really excited to be here today to share with you a little bit of our experience as a small fundraising charity as we moved very quickly to the digital space in response to lockdown and COVID. And on to the session itself, I'll be talking with you a little bit about the products that we took to market, explore the approach that was really helpful in us moving quickly at a difficult time, unpack a few of the outcomes that came about because of the work, and explore what's next for us as a team. Before we get into the session proper, I'm really keen to give a name check to Will Robinson, who's our fundraising manager, and we're a tiny fundraising team, and he was absolutely instrumental in devising and delivering much of the work I'm about to describe to you today.
Hi, this is Will from Become, and I am calling out all gamers. Whether you're a veteran, a part-timer or a beginner, you can use your time at home now to make a difference for children in care and care experienced young people, many of whom don't have the support structure in place to get through this really difficult time. You can enter the Become Players Marathon and challenge yourself to game for a marathon length of time. It's indoors, no contact, and a great way to stay in touch with friends and your community online. You can register for free on the Become website right now, link in bio. Choose your challenge, choose your game, and you're going to go solo or put a squad together, and set up your JustGiving page. The earlier you start fundraising, the more you'll raise and the bigger difference you will make. What am I going to do? I am going for the Silver Marathon, 12 hours. I'm going to play World of Warcraft, and I cannot wait. Wish me luck.
And on to the work itself, starting with Become Players, which launched on the 30th of March, following lockdown on the 23rd of March, and the event itself was on the 24th to 26th of April. The Become Players was a marathon proposition whereby people were asked to game for 6 hours, 12 hours or 24 hours, and there was a corresponding fundraising target attached to the game, the amount of time that you committed to. There's some interesting things around Become Players. First of all, one point of note, which is that it was already on a horizon for this year. We were planning to test Become Players for the first time. The idea was that it was going to happen in the summer. We just massively accelerated that, brought that up the calendar, and did all of our thinking around it really quickly to get it out to market really quickly. And that thinking included what type of challenge would it be? We landed on marathon. It included, do we do it for a particular time period, or do we just encourage people to game at a time that works best for them? And we landed on a specific time at the end of April. We also had to develop all of the assets and the collateral that happened within the fundraising team, and making lots of use of Canva, which if you aren't aware of, can give you access to royalty-free images, to templates for various bits of collateral, including anything from brochures to social posts and everything in between. We also promoted Become Players through our organic socials, but also through Facebook social ads, which was incredibly successful for us actually, and I'll talk a little bit more about the outcomes a little bit further down the line. But it was a period of learning for us. We were intentional about our learning, and we made sure that we continued to apply that learning throughout the process. So we were continuing to refine our approach up until and beyond the event itself. Then on to the emergency appeal, which was hot on the heels of the marathon launch. The emergency appeal came out on the 3rd of April. It was a digital first appeal, which was a first for us. We did have a mailing element to it. We mailed our current and previous supporters and asked them to give, but we were quite clear about if they were able to give online, that would be really welcome, because we were all working from home during the lockdown. And they were incredibly responsive and supportive in that context. We also sought to engage new supporters through the emergency appeal, and again tested and worked with Facebook ads to achieve this. There's a couple of things that are also quite interesting around the appeal. First of all is that we made the decision to ask donors to give via JustGiving rather than via our website. And that enabled us to do a couple of things. First of all, it meant that we were absolutely certain that the money that was received was definitely for the appeal, which is really helpful in seeing the success of the appeal really clearly and quickly. And also it meant that we were able to collect and curate just some wonderful comments from our donors through JustGiving, and it really helped not only with inspiring us within the team, but also creating content for future organic posts, and that just helped to kind of continue the momentum around the appeal, which was fantastic. So what of the culture and the approach to our very quick way of working? Well, there are a number of elements that influence this, and I've just drawn out 3 key elements that were particularly helpful, I feel, and they are communication, learning and failure. I'll be unpacking those a little bit more in a moment. But a couple of things to note before that. First of all, that this approach wasn't new at time of lockdown. This has been baked into our fundraising strategy. We have certain principles which echo a lot of the language that we use here. And it means that it didn't come as a shock to anyone in the team. It meant that we already had buy-in from trustees and CEO to our way of working. And it meant that it's very clear understanding that a culture isn't a single action, it's a series of decisions and actions that's made by everyone on the team. And that was already really clear for the whole organisation. So looking first at communication, as we moved to lockdown, suddenly virtual communication became incredibly important, as is true for everybody else. So what we did is we introduced daily touch-base team video meetings, which was really helpful because sometimes people will hold off sharing a random thought or idea because it doesn't warrant a whole email. So having that space carved out to look into each other's eyes, albeit virtually, and to just have a bit of a chat and shoot the breeze became really useful in kind of sharing ideas. We did, however, also use and encourage use of Teams and email to share further ideas or ask questions and so on. That's also incredibly helpful. We made sure to reach out to previous supporters, to pick up the phone and speak to them. They were also going through something enormous, so it was an opportunity to say hello and connect with them and to let them know how the young people we work with were experiencing lockdown and the challenges that they were facing. We also took the opportunity to reach out to gamers who had previously supported us of their own accord and to learn from them what influenced their thinking and what worked for them and what encouraged them to get involved, and we could apply that thinking to become players. And then a learning approach was incredibly useful and helpful as we tried to move really quickly. So it was an act of actively looking for inspiration. We looked out for and outward for opportunities and approaches that we could replicate. An example of that is Children's Society's appeal also pointed donors to JustGiving, and it looked like such a good idea that we chose to kind of magpie that bit of brilliance. Another example is that Shelter, their digital fundraising team, were incredibly generous with giving us time, expertise, insight in their digital fundraising experience, in particular gaming fundraising in the gaming space, which was really generous of them during such a busy period as the crisis was. And then also seeking out learning that was already available through blogs and indeed podcasts. So a couple that are worth recommending, I feel, the Charity Digital podcast, which is great, and the Fundraising Bright Spots podcast, which has been very helpful throughout the lockdown. We then made sure that we adapted that learning to our circumstances. So, for example, videos had to be shot and edited by us. So we made sure that we lent into that. And here's an example of that in practice.
Is anyone else getting pulled up for gaming setups by parents, partners, carers? tell them it's a charity for children in care who need us now, and we're in training. The Become Players Marathon, 1 week away. So stay at home, fundraise, and game on.
So we also made sure that we applied our learning as described, and that we would test and iterate where possible as well. So that would look like, particularly with our social paid for ads. We've Become Players, our first round of ads, we had 6 different versions of the message. And we wanted to test what messaging really resonated for people that we were hoping would support us. And as we learned from that, where we saw there was the most engagement, we then refined our messaging and did the same test again with images. So we went through a whole series of tests between launch on the 30th of March and the event on the 24th of April to keep making sure we were targeting the right people in the right way. We did the same approach with the appeal, and that looked like the first round of tests examined whether a story-led approach, a fact-led approach, or a services-led approach would galvanise the most interest. And if you're interested, stories won. And that was, again, really helpful. Again, we tested images, and we just made sure that we kept learning, refining, learning, iterating as we went along to make sure that we were applying whatever we learnt as we went. Now, this is where I jump into my little soapbox, because failure, it seems like it's possibly an odd thing to include when you're talking about team culture, but I think it's hugely important to create a culture where failure is okay. And at the moment, it seems like it's such a loaded word that people are fearful of it, and that fear of failure then just means that we don't feel like we have the license to fail, and means that we weary of innovating or making sure that we fully understand why something has or hasn't worked, because we want to get away from that failure as soon as possible. I'm really keen that we take the sting out of the word failure, and that it is really understood as a necessary part of building a pathway to success. And I'm not alone in this. There are other organisations that have built a culture around this. Pizza for Losers is a good example. And there are others out there where failure is recognised as an important stepping stone towards success and to learning. So what we would do is we first of all recognise that we need to try and fail in order to succeed. So that was really clear. And that was very much true. So there are some elements of the work that we did connected with the 2 products I've described where we did fail. So, for example, we didn't get the celebrity engagement that we hoped for. We didn't get the interest or coverage with gaming sites or publications that we sought. One thing that really stood out for me is, first of all, the date. Some of you may have clocked this already. It was the weekend that the marathon was going to be on. And what we didn't foresee was that an alternative to that marathon was going to be devised. And indeed, that was the case. Some of you will remember the 2.6 challenge. So we kind of, we're heading for a clash with regards to dates. And we also tried to promote the 2.6 challenge ourselves, and actually what we did was just kind of muddy the communications water in the week leading up to the challenge to Become Players, and in retrospect that would have been a much better thing to do. And also, we were slightly naively unprepared for negative comments underneath the appeal. Lots of you who are watching and no doubt have lots of experience in seeing negative comments and trolls sadly on your organisation's socials, and this is something that we just didn't really put a contingency in place for ahead of launching the appeal. So we had to move quite quickly to figure out a way forward with that, which is a bit of a shame.
I was sitting in my mother's beauty parlor, and I'm looking in the mirror, and I see behind me this woman under the dryer. I didn't know who she was. She said, "Somebody give me a pen, give me a pencil. I have a prophecy." He said, "Boy, you are going to travel the world and speak to millions of people." Now, mind you, I was flunked out of college. I'm thinking about joining the army. I didn't know what I was going to do, and she's telling me I'm going to travel the world and speak to millions of people. Well, I have traveled the world, and I have spoke to millions of people. But that's not the most important thing, the success that I had. The most important thing is that what she told me that day has stayed with me since. If you think you want to do what you think I've done, then do what I've done. Fail big. Fail big. You only live once. Take chances. Don't be afraid to fail. There's an old IQ test was 9 dots. And you had to draw 5 lines with a pencil within these 9 dots without lifting the pencil. The only way to do it was to go outside the box. So don't be afraid to go outside the box. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. Don't be afraid to fail big.
So what came about as a result of that work and the approach? Well, I mentioned that we did invest some money in paid socials. It was a grand total of £830, which I'm sure some of you are smiling at and some of you are balking at, depending on the size of your charity. That investment resulted in over 35k worth of income, which is a really great return on investment. Really pleased with that, and particularly pleased because a third of the income came from brand new donors to us. So it means we have the opportunity to bring them ever closer to our cause over the weeks, months and years, which is really exciting. Become Players specifically, we generated 300 leads and had a 12% conversion rate, which we're pleased with. And we're actually looking to invest in 2 more events this year, which we're very excited about. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. And then you'll notice a screenshot on the screen. This is an in-game image from Football Manager, and we're one of a couple of charities that had the opportunity to take over their stadium hoardings, which is really exciting. So we're able to promote Football Manager, able to promote Become Players through Football Manager, which is an opportunity that we were so happy to be able to grab with both hands, and really was appropriate for what we were trying to do. Kind of really married really well together, so really pleased with that. And then onto the appeal, we were delighted to have 60 new donors supporting our work. And now we have the opportunity to bring them ever closer to why we do what we do, which is very exciting. And I mentioned already the really lovely benefit of reading and being inspired by the comments from donors through the JustGiving appeal. And of course, it generated further content, which is super exciting. So what next? Well, Become Players, I've already mentioned that we're hoping to do 2 more events this year, the first of which is going to be between the 6th and the 8th of November. This time it's going to be Become Players Completes rather than a marathon. So encouraging people to complete a game or a level within a game and to get sponsorship for that. Any big gamers out there, please do hop on to becomecharity.org.uk for more information. We've also sought feedback from gamers from the first event to better understand how we can improve and develop our work, and their viewpoints have really helped to inform our next approach. So you can see from the images on here that we've really upped our game with regards to the visuals, and we were able to get someone outside of the charity to develop the visuals for us, and what a difference it makes. It's really fantastic. We've also introduced incentives for different giving levels. So the t-shirt that you can see here is if you raise £300. So there's different kind of milestones that people can reach and rewards, if you like, to get them there. Then we're also recruiting a digital fundraising officer. The closing date for that is the 26th of October, in case anyone's interested. That's to help us with these upcoming events, to help us with our Christmas appeal, and to help us into the next financial year. And we're really excited about the opportunity that digital offers. We're really thankful that we're able to invest in that area of work. We're also seeking expert advice to look at what tools we can make better use of and identify what resources we need to bring into the organisation to continue to improve our digital fundraising support. And then we've got our Christmas appeal coming up, as is I'm sure the case for many of you, and that will be a digital first appeal, and it will absolutely include the learnings from the emergency appeal as described. So hopefully a couple of useful takeaways for you. First of all is under communication, please keep talking and listening to each other, to your donors, to the sector. It's where there's the magic that can happen, and where you can continue to develop the products and propositions that you're putting forward, and where you can be inspired and excited by the work that you do. And then around learning, to be really intentional about your learning, to seek it out, to find it. Inspiration won't come to you, you need to find it. And once you have found those great learning opportunities, be them little nuggets or huge conferences like today, to make sure that you apply that learning as well. And then failure should absolutely not be a source of shame, rather a step towards success. It's really useful to remember that it's not something that you need to run away from, rather examine it, learn from it, and then keep moving forward. And there's a much used quote that does bear repeating, which is that it's better to have tried and failed than to have never tried at all. And with those three areas, communication, learning and failure, hopefully you can together develop a team culture where trying is its own reward. And fundraising success hopefully comes from that as well.
Thank you. Your support means we're able to help young people through this crisis and beyond. Without you, that wouldn't be possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Huge thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So that's it for me. A huge thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. As I said, please do add any questions in the Q&A via the Q&A button on your screen right now. Also, here are my contact details if any of you would like to keep in touch and learn and share from each other and keep talking. Please do. And I look forward to chatting to you in just a few minutes. Thank you.
Let's delve into the first question. We have quite a few. So let's delve with Lucy's first question. How much did you spend on Facebook ads for your gaming promotion?
Oh, that was the 830 that I mentioned in the presentation. So we really, threw all the money at it.
Wow, good. That was great. Another one from Natalia Deleva. Which were the most relevant channels for engaging with the gaming community?
Facebook was definitely the most successful way to reach the gaming community. Not exclusively. We also tried organic posts via Twitter, for example, but absolutely Facebook is where we saw the biggest level of interest, and also, frankly, where we invested most of our time as well. So there's probably a correlation there.
Okay. And did you that's my personal question. Did you try all famous platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Twitch as well? Or?
Yes. Okay. So we have a bit of a presence on Instagram. So we did again via organic posts, and actually some, because Facebook owns Instagram. A couple of the ads went out to Instagram as well. TikTok, no, we don't have a presence there, and we didn't try to create one for this. Was there anything else? I don't think it was. I think it was just those. And we did also use email and
Emails,
to our current supporters as well.
Okay, and so no specific gamers platform or sort of forums or that sort of thing,
like Discord and the likes.
Discord, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. No. That first time, no. This time we are in the one that I mentioned in the presentation. We are. That's one of our learnings is to try and move into that space. But for the first one, we frankly did not have the capacity. So we made a choice not to. What we did do, however, and I think this might answer one of the questions a little bit, is around influencers, is we didn't have any high profile influencers, but what we did do is try to reach out to gaming groups on Facebook and say to them, hey, this is happening, are you happy to share it with your group and get involved yourself?
Well, but thank you, Davinia. That was also Hillary's question about the use of influencers, so that's all good. And another one was the 35K in income from both the appeal and the gaming event, and if so, how much did they generate separately?
So it's about over 5K for the gaming event, and then the rest from the appeal. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Well done. Well done. And in terms of comparison with other campaigns you've done, is it
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's our best appeal to date as far as we can see.
Yeah.
So we're really pleased with that. And with the gaming, to be honest, it was so hard to try and gauge what would be an appropriate target because it was brand new for us. So it's very much a kind of opportunity for us to learn what is an appropriate benchmark to set. But we were really pleased with that result as a kind of first time out the gate, really pleased with it. And it's because we're, as described in the presentation, we're looking to repeat it in year. So actually, by the end of the year, hopefully the collective events will have done a nice job for us. All things going well.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Interesting question from Dave. So we'll go to the gaming marathon. So what was the success of the gaming marathon? We know it was great. Did it receive any criticism for encouraging excessive gaming? As this is often something in the media about young people being, too sedentary in front of their screen. Did you get any people saying that sort of things?
That's a really good question, and it isn't something we encountered, thankfully, but it is something that absolutely we considered and need to consider more. So for this time around, we made sure that anyone that was under a certain age, I think 16, it might have been 18, I'm sorry, I can't quite remember, had to get parental permission to get involved. So there's that kind of added friction, if you like, for younger players to commit to playing for such a long length of time. But I also think perhaps because of the timing of this was just when lockdown started, actually people were looking for a reason to come together in the home. And so rather than this being problematic as it perhaps might have been 3 months prior, it was actually perceived as a positive thing to bring people together, I should say, within the home and also outside of the home virtually through the gaming kind of working together to achieve that marathon level.
Another question from Lucy. Did you steward your gaming fundraisers differently to other fundraisers? Was there anything different? And how did you find their engagement?
Yeah, so there was quite a personal stewardship journey for the gamers, in large part because this was also new to us. So we wanted to get to know what was kind of motivating people and what was working for them and what wasn't. So we were really close to the gamers as they came through. That's not to say we didn't also, use emails, but there's lots of phone conversations where donors were happy or gamers were happy to speak on the phone. So we kind of really is perhaps more intensive than the traditional event might be, which worked for us for this time around.
Good. Another question keeps coming. We have
that's great.
16. That's great. It's really exciting. Another question from Michelle Jones. They are a very small local charity, so fundraising is all done within their existing role. What were the costs of putting on the digital fundraiser, including the ad costs?
Yeah, so the ad costs again were $8.30. That's so that we're $8.30. All of the bits and bobs, so the graphics or those videos that you saw, all of the ads were all done in-house. So there was no extra costs beyond time, which is of course our most precious resource for all of us. But the only cost was with the ads themselves.
The ads, Facebook ads. Okay. Another question from Rachel. So with the ads, still with them, which audiences did you target and which converted most?
Very good question. I don't have the immediate answer for that, I'm afraid. It's more professional. But what I'm really happy to do is come back offline.
Sure.
Was it to Rachel?
Rachel White. Yes.
With an answer to that. So yes, I'll
Rachel, hopefully, if you've got my email address, you're happy to.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll be really grateful.
And we'll pop it up as well again.
Right.
So that's all great. Now to the next question. I know you touched upon it a little bit in your presentation. Any sort of key element that you would do differently next time? The main thing that you think you would do differently?
Yeah, so there are the bits that I mentioned in the presentation. I think beyond that, I would definitely say that a longer lead time would have been really helpful to kind of have more time to engage people, promote people, and also during that time we can ready ourselves a little bit more as well. So I think that probably would be the kind of the biggie. The one that's you know, I think is probably true for all of us, including everyone watching, is more money. That would always be very helpful.
That's great. So thank you. That was a question from Natalia. Next one. Oh yeah. From Karen Nicole. I think we might touched upon it a little bit. You gave some figures regarding lead generation and conversion rates. Was this conversion to sign up as gamers or for another action?
It was for them to sign up as gamers. So,
as gamers, yeah.
Yeah, so we counted that when they created an active JustGiving page, i.e. that money came through.
Okay, good. And then question from Kate actually. Can you just remind us how many are in your team?
Oh, there are so many of us.
Yeah.
3.
3.
For a total of 3, myself included.
That's true. That's also, I think, very important to stress. You're a small team, but you've managed so much in such a short period of time, like you said, and also realizing that it might have come in some clashing with the marathon, but you still managed to pull amazing results. So down to a team of 3. That's amazing. Another question. What platform are gamers using to gather donation? Is it just JustGiving or other ones?
There are others out there. I'll be honest, I think there's, oh gosh, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to remember the names, but we did look at a couple of others. And there are others that are perhaps even closer to, you know, how to use Twitch and integrated and all that kind of thing. We chose to use JustGiving because we were already using JustGiving, so it was familiar to us. But also they also have links in with Twitch and actually have since deepened their engagement with Twitch, which is better for the gamers. So we went for something that was familiar to us to help around our kind of capacity, if you like, but also something that we knew that gamers would be familiar with, even if it's not the top one that gamers would know.
Okay. Thank you for that. Another question with regards to Facebook. Does the donate button on Facebook generate much income for you?
No. So and actually that's always been the case.
Okay.
I don't know if it's. I don't think it's unique to our charity, although I certainly haven't done a survey, but I don't think the donate button on Facebook posts generates a huge amount. So what we did is we, our call to action, our button wasn't about donating, it was about click here to find out more. And then for the ad, it was a click through to JustGiving rather than donating within Facebook. And for us, that worked. You know, there's much more to figure out around that. But yeah, for some reason, the kind of in-platform donate button within Facebook just doesn't seem to generate that much engagement. However, I think when you have this is slightly separate, but when you have people within Facebook create like their birthday fundraisers and so on, that seems to work really well. So
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm planning to do one. I still need to get my head around it, but hopefully
really
it should
good.
work. That's right. And by the way, when people do that, do you get notification? Somebody you know, is fundraising for you for their birthday? How does that work from a charity?
Yeah, so we do. I think there's room for improvement with it. To be honest, I think that the reports and the back end is a little bit of a kind of it's a bit of a maze. It's a bit of a labyrinth.
Right.
It's quite tricky to navigate. So you do get alerts. You get like reports through from the back end of Facebook, but it's not as straightforward. I feel as it could be. But yeah, I think it's probably going to be like that for a while.
You know, that's great, thank you. We have time for one more question. So you mentioned that gamers could select different length of time, if I'm correct, to play. What length was the most popular? That's a question from Hillary.
Oh, that's such a good question, and again, I don't have the answer to that, but I should definitely know that. So I don't know, but I will again find out. Yeah.
That's all good. Which leads us to well, another question, since we have 1
Yes.
minute. So you mentioned acquiring loads of new supporters. Did you already have a broad audience, or were most of the participants new supporters found through ads?
Well, yeah. So for Become players, over 90% of our gamers were brand new to us.
Brand new.
So it's really so that was much of the reason why we are really pleased with it, because not only was it successful in its own right, but it brought brand new people into the charity, which means we can hopefully develop long-lasting relationships with them, which is super exciting.
That's great. Thank you again so much for your time, Davinia. Thank
Pleasure.
you for your presentation. It was great to learn about Become.